Welcome to the Bear Sheet broadcast, where we talk about building stability, preserving legacy, and strengthening the communities we call home. I'm Kalia Heaven Barak Yahoo, founder and president of Bear Sheet, a 501c3 nonprofit here in the Richmond area. I'm honored you're spending this time with us. This show is a safe space for real conversations about homeownership, financial well being, end of life planning, and the choices that shape our family's future. Today's conversation is deeply important. We're talking about homeless youth and what it really takes to move someone from instability into independence. At Bereshit, our mission is simple but powerful. We empower families to build lasting stability by providing holistic education and compassionate support in homeownership, wealth building, and end of life planning. We help individuals make informed decisions, preserve their legacy, and strengthen the communities they call home. To all our listeners, if there's a topic you want to discuss, send us an email to info@bearsheetcorporation.org. My daughter came home a few weeks ago and said, Mom, I met someone at school and they're homeless. And she began to tell me about the student who has been living in the park, carries everything with them, or strategically stores things around the city so that they have access to it. And I asked my daughter, how could this person be homeless and attend college with you? So she began to tell me, she said, Mom, that's a good question. But she said they're homeless. They are living on the streets. They went to school before. They go to school because they have an ID just like the rest of us, but they have nowhere to go. So she was telling me about, different people in the school. So I asked her, do they have anyone to stay with? She didn't really know much, but she knew that the student was homeless. And, thinking about that as a parent, no one wants to hear that their child is homeless. And so we have a young student here that has the mind to get an education, has the desire to get out there and better themselves, but they're homeless. So as the weeks go on, one day my daughter gives me a call and she says, Mom, um, the student called me up, or her friend called her up and said, it's raining where I would normally sleep in the park. I can't sleep there because it's raining. So my daughter told me about this person and I'm like, okay, I hadn't heard anything else for just a little bit. So, life happens. So I'm not thinking about that person anymore. I'm figuring, okay, I guess they're okay. They found somewhere to go. And then when my daughter calls me up and says, Mom, they called me. They're in the park. Well, they were in the park. Right now they're standing by a building so they can get out of the rain soaked because they have nowhere to go. This should not be what our youth have to go through. They shouldn't always have a place to call home. So I called the school and I asked the school, of course I wanted to be discreet. This is a new avenue. At Bereshit, we help a lot of people. Many of the people that we've come in contact with have been adults. They may be in the process of losing a home, but they're not homeless. Now, this is a young person who is out on the street, can't go to live with their mom. Their mom has passed away, don't have good family members at that time from what we knew that they could live with. So they're out there on the street, but they're trying to make themselves better by going to school. So I called the school up and I asked the school, what resources do they have for students like this? So they share with me, they're a community school, they don't have housing, but what they do is they have people that they work with that can help figure out what the situation is, see if the student has parents they can live with, friends they can live with, and connect them to neighboring resources. Now, because my daughter shared this with me, we have been looking into resources. We've been looking into places that had shelter and housing. We've called there's a homeless hotline that will give you at the end of the episode, where if you have someone that is facing a homeless crisis, these are some numbers that you can call to reach out to for resources. One thing the young man told my daughter was that he didn't want to go to a shelter. And so I asked my daughter, why? Why don't you want to go to a shelter? Now, every shelter is not created equal, but a shelter is a place where anybody and everybody can go from all walks of life. They don't turn people away, which is great. But then also, in that same sentence, you get all types of people with all different intentions. So when I asked her, why can't the young man go to a shelter, she said he's gone there and they haven't been a safe place for him. It is safer for him to be on the street than be in the shelter. I mean, that's something that is just so sad to hear. So because of that, he felt safer sleeping in the park, and probably would have never reached out to my daughter, except for he couldn't go to the park because it was raining, and he had nothing else and nowhere else to go. So once my daughter shared that with me, we went ahead and we found a hotel for the young man, and we went ahead and we booked a hotel for him to stay in. So at least he could get out of the rain for that time period, and we could figure out what to do. In the meantime, while I was talking to the school, I asked the school, what does that mean? If the student comes in and says and explains their situation and they have no family members to go to, what happens next? And so they shared with me, they connect with community resources, which does include possibly for the time being in a shelter. And like I shared just a few minutes ago, that was a no-no for the young person because they have been to shelters and have not been safely taken care of. So I called the homeless hotline and I talked to them. Thankfully, Richmond has a youth homeless hotline that is dedicated for youth. So I called them and I spoke with one of the representatives, and I was asking what I needed to do. And she was sharing with me, well, here are some resources. And she gave me a lot of resources, which I appreciate. But one of the things she said to me was they probably in the beginning would be in a shelter. So I shared the same thing about the concern about going to a shelter. And she said, well, a shelter has a lot of different people in there. You can definitely reach out to the people that work there and express those concerns. But yes, a shelter has people from all walks of life, all types of people. And basically, she could not vouch for the condition of the safety for the young person. But she did tell me that I could talk with some of the people there. Across the United States, there's over 20,000 young adults that age out of foster care each year. That's a lot of young people. And studies show that up to 40% experience homelessness within the first few years without support. When housing is unstable, everything becomes harder. Employment, education, mental health, long-term opportunity. These young people, they're not lacking potential. They're lacking stability. They're lacking a place to live. And they're lacking the resources once they get that place. Because you can give someone some place to stay, but then you still have to address the other issues. The trust issues that are most likely there from living on the street. The trauma that brought them to live on the street. Any mental health issues that are going on. And now we want to get these young people we get them into a place to stay, but we want to get them into their own place to stay so that they can be productive assets to society, because that's what they want to be too. They want jobs. They want their own home or apartment or wherever. They want their own place to put their items. They want to do these things for the community. And the young man that I was talking about, very intelligent, very driven, but so many boundaries were put up for him once he got out of the foster care system that now he's out on the street. Someone who can take the time to enroll in school and be living in the park has to show what type of driven behavior that he has and so much promise. Anyway, so I was sharing with you, we went to the hotel. So we went ahead, and my husband, he met with the young man. My daughter went too because she knew him, and we reserved a hotel for him for at least the weekend to get him out of the rain. We paid for it. We prepaid. We made sure I called the hotel. It wasn't even one of those ritzy hotels. It was a just a normal hotel where anybody can go ahead and make a reservation. And we go ahead, and my husband, we check in. Everyone goes. The young man, of course, we check him into the room. He's there, and we've already prepaid. The next day or the day after, I get a call from the young man. Well, from my daughter, she's telling me, "Mom, they're kicking him out of the hotel." And I'm like, "What? We paid for this. Like, why would they be kicking him out? All he's doing is staying in his room. Like, why are they kicking him out?" So I call up to the hotel to find out what's going on. And so they say, "Ma'am, he doesn't have an ID to show that he is of the age to be at a hotel." Well, I was like, "Well, I know. I think that age was like 20. You have to be at least 20. Well, my husband is older than 20, and he's the one that checked in, and he's the one that paid. So I don't understand why the young man can't stay." They said, "Ma'am, he doesn't have an ID, and we want him out of the hotel." Now, you have people who you're trying to establish trust. We're trying to help get them out of the bad weather. And then you have situations like these where someone is doing what they need to do, followed all the rules, and then they're kicking you out of a place to stay. So then the young man has to go back on the street. That was no good. And of course I called the hotel to find out why would they do such a thing and why would they go that way. They didn't really have a comment to it except for he didn't have an ID, which really didn't matter because my husband was the one who checked in and he's over 20. But it brought up the question, how do you expect a person who is on the street to have an ID? What home are they supposed to put down? And these are some of the things that you run into. You want a job, you need an ID. You want a place for mail to come, you can get a P.O. box, but you need an ID. In order to get an ID, you need a home address. In order to get the ID, you need a home address. And if you're homeless, you don't have a home address. So that hurts people who are trying to do something, who are trying to maybe get themselves out of homelessness. If I can get a job, then I can make some money, I can save up, and then I can maybe get a place to stay. I can get my own hotel, but you can't get that because you can't get a job and you can't get an ID. It's like a continual circle. One of the biggest gaps that I'm starting to see as we have ventured down this process is preparation. There are so many good people helping out there. I mean, even though there are gaps and things that we can see on the outside that could be done better, I'm very thankful for the resources that we have to help homeless people, our youth, people in crisis. Very thankful for the foster care system that is working hard to help these children. But even with that, there are still gaps that we still have to figure out so that the children don't fall through the cracks, so that we don't have 40% of children still becoming homeless. It is a blessing that those 60% are going out there and making it. But what about those 40%? Many of the young people, they're not taught how to manage their money. They're not taught how to build credit. If they're given a home, they're not taught how to maintain the home, how to budget to keep everything on, what to do when money gets tight. They're not taught those things. They're not taught how to plan for the future. So suddenly now when they're on their own and now throw in homelessness, we expect our youth to figure out in real time how to make these things happen without guidance. And that can feel overwhelming. There are resources out there, but how do you reach them? I'm going to tell you, when the young man called us over the weekend, there was no organization that we found that I could talk to a person that was able to help. It was late. Offices were closed. So what are people supposed to do? And what if you don't have friends? Can I stay at your house? Or what if you don't have money to go to a hotel? Then you find yourself sleeping in the park or finding somewhere else that you can be safe. When my daughter shared with me that in order to keep things, they have to keep bags around the city with their stuff stored in it, hoping that people don't pick it up. My heart was just like, we have to help. We have to help our young people. And how many more young people in our area are going through this? We can all be a part of the solution. There's not just a here's the solution and let's do it. But I do believe getting these children, especially those anyone who's homeless, but right now we're talking about the youth, into stable housing is a starting point. Because when you have stable housing and you can feel safe, you can put your items down. If you have, you can feel like you have somewhere to come and to sleep. You can start the process of healing. Then you can take on those other resources. Now we can get counseling and now we can get medical insurance because the young man, he had health insurance. He had some of the things that some people don't even have who are working, but he had no place to stay. When you hear about young people living on the streets and sleeping in the park, my daughter would share with me that sometimes he would have to go to the library and get a study room just so he could fall asleep in a safe place. That's not what we want for anybody. Right now, we have an initiative that we are working on. One of them, Bereshit, does a lot of different things and has a lot of different initiatives. But one of them that we're working on is housing, transitional housing for our youth. It focuses on getting these young adults from instability to independence, connecting them with a safe, stable housing opportunity, whether it's in a group environment, keyword being safe, helping them navigate identification, documents, any barriers that are keeping them from getting those things, connecting them to existing community programs because it takes a village. You know that saying, it takes a village to raise a child? It takes a village even in these nonprofit spaces because you rely on the resources of others to help get where you need to go, to help to help our people get where they need to go. We also provide financial literacy education. Every child needs financial literacy education. They need to know how to gain money, maintain money, balance money. I would have loved to have looking back now as an adult, I may not have liked it when I was a child, but having classes on stocks and mutual funds and bonds and those things would be helpful. We teach our children in our classes how to write a check, how to sign the check. They definitely, children know what debit cards are and credit cards. I mean, one of my daughters were counting money from a very young age. They would know if you gave her $50, how much change she was supposed to get back. But do you know how to save that, how to balance that, how to make sure the bills get paid? We have to teach our children financial literacy so that they can be successful and be more successful than we are. We have to teach them life skills like budgeting and responsibility, how to be a good neighbor, what to do when situations get hard. We have to offer mentorship and guidance. And these are the things that we are doing at Bereshit, especially with our project that we're doing for the youth. We want to meet people where they are and help them move forward step by step. And there's so many resources out there, so many community partners. The more resources we have accessible at our fingertips, these are the more resources we can pass on. The more things that you know about for resources for people, these are things you can pass on. And this is why it's important. At Bereshit, we partner with housing providers, community organizations, educators, financial professionals, local leaders, and businesses. We have to connect the dots so that another student that got themselves into college is not homeless. And really, We don't want anybody homeless. There are programs out there that help young women or single parents who are homeless be able to get into housing and then transition into permanent housing, because it doesn't stop right when you get them off the street. It doesn't stop when you get someone into transitional housing. We have to get them over into their own permanent housing so that they can be self-sufficient. That is the goal. And it takes a community to do that. When a young person has stable housing, everything begins to shift. They can focus on work. They can focus on school. They can build routines. They can develop confidence. They can plan for the future. Housing creates the environment where growth becomes possible. At Bereshit, we believe housing is the foundation for a lot of things, if not everything in life. You have to have a place to live. So we're working to create pathways for these young adults to not only have a place to live, but to build a life. Please check out our website at housing.bereshitcorporation.org. You will see what we talk about. This is our initiative for our young people, for our adults, our young adults who are out on the street, who we need to transition them off the streets into safe and stable housing. We need to be able to connect them with programs that teach life skills. We need to provide guidance in financial literacy and responsibility. And we need to help them develop the tools they need to eventually provide for themselves. And we also need to support them mentally. They need that counseling. They need to be able to trust so that they can heal and be a pleasant help to our community and society. So this is where the community comes in. If you're listening and wondering, how can you help? Because when I was listening to my daughter and she was telling me about what's going on, I said, we have to help. How can we help? There's several ways to get involved. One, you can donate to support housing and programs developed. Go right on our site. You can go to housing.bereshitcorporation.org. You can donate directly to this initiative, or you can donate directly to Bereshit, which is bereshitcorporation.org, to the whole all of our initiatives, which we have a lot of them that are coming to help all walks of life. You can provide resources, whether that's services, mentorships, partnerships, volunteering. If you are open to doing any of those things, please reach out. All those things are important. If you know of a nonprofit or a resource, send it our way. It may be one we know about. It may be one we don't. I was talking to a colleague today, and I was sharing with her about our initiative and how we are helping our youth get off the street. And she let me know she has a group home access to a group home for adults. So this is another pathway that we can help get some adults off the street. That is great. Nobody should have to live on the street. You can simply share this message so it reaches someone who needs it or someone who can help. Because real change happens when a community comes together. Also, if you know someone who's facing homelessness in the Richmond area, you can call the Homeless Connection line at 804-972-0813. If you're not in the Richmond area, there is usually a homeless connection line. It may not be called that, but some type of homeless resource hub that you can Google, find out the number so that you can pass that on. If you know a young adult, or if there's youth who need immediate support, you can call the National Runaway Safe Line. It's available 24/7. It's 1-800-RUNAWAY, and they can provide resources. They'll take information and direct you to the proper resources in your area. That's a national number, so that would be a good place to start too. One thing everyone should know is they don't have to figure it out alone, because we're here. We're here to support. Going back to that young man, He had drive. He had discipline, because anyone who can sleep in the park and then go to school the next day and work to figure that out, I don't think you would know he was homeless unless you asked him. You couldn't tell. He had vision, but what he didn't have was stability. And that's what we want for our people. We want our people to have stability. And our people is all people. We live in this world. We help those who are in this world. And that's what it's all about. Making sure that someone who's doing the best they can still has a fair opportunity to succeed. Let me ask you this question. What would it mean for someone to have just one opportunity, one moment of support that changes the direction of their life? What would that mean for them? And what would it look like for us to be a part of creating that moment? If you ever meet a young person experiencing homelessness, your response matters. You want to approach them. Each situation is different, so you want to approach them helpful but appropriate, and also you want to be safe. The first thing is treat people with respect, not like a problem. Ask them if they're okay. Do they need help finding any resources? That's the first step. Don't assume anything. Everybody's situation is different. And instead of assuming what they may need, ask. Is there something specific you're trying to figure out right now? Do you have some place safe to stay tonight? Connect them to a real resource. This is very important. We gave you the Homeless Connection hotline, that 804-972-0813. If you're in the Richmond area, you can dial 211 for local services, or you can call the National Youth Hotline, 1-800-RUNAWAY. You don't have to be the solution. You can be the solution to connect them to the solution. Offer practical and immediate help. Depending on that situation, you can offer a meal, money for an Uber to get to a safe place. You can help them make a phone call because we could use your phone. You can help them look up resources. These small actions can make a big difference. And be mindful of your boundary. You don't want to put yourself in any harm's way, and you want them to be safe as well. This is still someone new, so you always approach people with caution and safety. Don't put yourself in an unsafe situation. Don't make promises that you can't keep so that you can establish trust. And we're talking about young adults that usually they're over 18, but you may encounter a homeless person that is a minor. So you definitely want to contact the local authorities or the crisis line. You never want your good to be mistaken. Remember that many young people don't have IDs, they don't have a support system. So this is why connecting them with the resources is very important. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. This situation may have come to you, whether you're just making a call or sharing a resource, you are being a help. And you can connect them to organizations like Bearsheet or Bearsheet, and we can be a bridge as well. If you're looking for this episode, we have gone ahead and made a connection on our website where you can listen to all our previous episodes. They're getting loaded up there little by little, and as they happen, they get put up there. But you can go ahead and go to our website and click listen to the broadcast. You'll see our YouTube page, and it will have a list of all the broadcasts that we've done. If today's conversation gave you clarity or sparked questions, we invite you to connect with us. Visit bearsheetcorporation.org, email us at info@bearsheetcorporation.org, or call 844-405-3924. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube for resources and community support. If you'd like to hear a previous conversation, once again, visit our YouTube channel. Thank you for spending this time with us. This is Bearsheet, building stability, preserving legacy, and strengthening the communities we call home. Join us next time as we continue this conversation that help families move forward with clarity, confidence, and dignity. Thank you.